Hi everyone, I'm Patrick Miller, a well-controlled diabetic for 18 years. Having had the disease for a longer period of time, I wanted to give some information to those that are newer to this disease, which could be helpful. This is the Diabag channel, where we provide useful information for diabetes. We are trying to get to 500 subscribers, and subscribing to the channel could really help us out. If you could hit the subscribe button, that would be awesome. I was diagnosed with diabetes when I was 28 and have what is called latent autoimmune diabetes in adults, or 1.5 diabetes. Basically, it's a mixture of both type 1 and type 2. I started out on oral medication similar to a type 2 and later switched to insulin similar to a type 1. Today, you would look at me and say I look a lot like a type 1 diabetic. The reason I bring it up is it gives me a good perspective into both types of diabetes. I wanted to talk today to those that might be very newly diagnosed or have a loved one that is very newly diagnosed, and talk about the 10 things they should do and think about to manage the disease. My first recommendation is breathe. I know you're thinking I'm kidding, but I'm not. Being diagnosed is a lot for both you as the patient and as loved ones around you. At times, I know it feels like drinking water out of a fire hose. There's a lot of new information coming at you, and a lot of it's medical. For whatever reason, they decided to take something that is not that difficult to understand and make it more difficult to understand by using words that only a scientist could understand. So now you might be feeling like you are learning a new language, while at the same time, you might be scared and a little lost as to what to do. Let me tell you, those are all normal feelings to have. The positive thing is that you are not alone. There are roughly 500 million people in the world with diabetes, so the disease is well understood. The terminology will come with time, and I'm going to suggest that you build a great team around you to help you manage this disease. With that said, the first thing I would like you to do is breathe. It is going to be okay. There is a path to managing this. Breathing is so helpful as it releases some of the stress built up inside. A very simple breathing exercise is called a box breathing, or sometimes called square breathing. You sit up straight with your feet flat on the ground. You breathe slowly for 4 seconds until your lungs are full. You hold the breath for 4 seconds. Then you exhale slowly for 4 seconds until your lungs are empty, and then hold for 4 seconds. You repeat this process until your stress falls. There is a ton of YouTubes on this, which I will put to in a link below, but that is it in 30 seconds. My second recommendation is to get a medical wearable ID. It's a good idea to wear a medical ID that identifies you as someone who lives with diabetes. There are bracelets and necklaces available, which can help notify a doctor if you were to be brought to emergency room unconscious for whatever reason. My third recommendation is to answer this question. Do you want to rule the disease, or do you want the disease to rule you? There are many bad outcomes that can come with uncontrolled diabetes. These bad outcomes tend to happen over the longer term, and as of yet, there are no magic cures to make the disease go away. The risk of having one or more bad outcomes get exponentially worse with an A1C above 7, and the higher the patient's A1C gets, the more likely the bad outcome is to occur over time. This then turns to a question of quality of life. By way of example, one of the major risk factors for diabetes is neuropathy, which is nerve damage to the patient's extremities. Loss of feeling in your feet makes walking challenging or impossible, as the person can't feel when their feet touches the ground. That is the question one has to ask themselves, which is not today, but say we fast forward in 10 years' time and we have one of these bad outcomes. Are we okay with that? If you are not okay with that, then you need to rule the disease and lessen the risks of one of those bad outcomes happening. My fourth suggestion is to make an appointment with an endocrinologist. An endocrinologist is a doctor that specializes in diabetes. While many people get diagnosed from their primary care doctor, it is my opinion the person who is better equipped to treat you is an endocrinologist, as their primary focus is diabetes. And like most things in life, the more you do something, the better you get at it. When you go see the endocrinologist, be honest and follow their direction. Let's start with honesty. There are a host of drugs for both type 1 and type 2 to help you better control your blood glucose. Not every drug works the same. Some push your sugar levels down very fast, while others push it down more gradual. Which drug is best for you? It depends on your lifestyle and how you respond to the drug. But having that conversation with the doctor and you understanding how the drug is intended to work is important. If you go to your follow-up appointment and you continue to have an A1C above 7, ask your doctor what else you can do to lower your A1C. With a little work, you can do this. The second part of my recommendation is to follow the doctor's directions. Because the directions can be complicated, before the doctor leaves, I repeat back to the doctor what I know to be the directions. This way, if I misunderstood what I am supposed to do, the doctor can correct me. My fifth recommendation is to get an appointment with a dietitian. A dietitian can help you formulate a plan for eating healthy. Contrary to popular belief, living with diabetes doesn't mean that you have to eat special foods or follow a complicated diet. Blood glucose is pushed higher by carbohydrates. From the body's perspective, eating a large glazed donut or eating a baked potato will both push blood glucose levels higher by about the same amount, as they both contain approximately 36 grams of carbohydrate. And in the body, all carbohydrates turn to sugar. Eating a diet with fewer carbohydrates will help keep your blood glucose levels lower. For most people, eating well when you have diabetes simply means heart-healthy eating in portioned amounts. This means frequently choosing plant-based foods such as fruits, vegetables, and whole grains, and opting for smaller servings of lean or low-fat animal foods such as lean cuts of meat and low-fat and fat-free dairy products. My sixth recommendation is to get an appointment with an ophthalmologist. When you make an appointment, make sure that they know you are diabetic. Diabetes can affect your eye and cause blindness, but great strides have been made in this area. An ophthalmologist can examine your eye, and if there are early signs of problems, they can correct these. You should see an ophthalmologist at least once a year, but more frequently if you have eye problems, difficult meeting glucose targets, high blood pressure, or kidney disease, or are pregnant. The ophthalmologist will need to view your retina and will need to dilate your eyes to do this. My seventh recommendation is to get an appointment with a dentist if you have not seen them in the past 6 months. People with diabetes, particularly those who over time have higher than recommended blood glucose levels, are at greater risk of developing dental problems, most commonly gum disease and loss of teeth. Getting a routine checkup and cleaning can help prevent this. My eighth recommendation is when you go see an endocrinologist, see if you can get a continuous glucose monitor. This is a device that measures your blood glucose very often and informs the patient about trends and warns them about highs and lows, and can inform the loved one about this information as well. It is my opinion that this is one of the better inventions for diabetes in the past 20 years. My ninth recommendation is to develop an exercise plan. Exercise is recommended for all humans, and particularly diabetics, as it helps with weight loss, which allows for the diabetic medicine to work better, and exercise improves the heart and cholesterol, both of which affect diabetics. When I was first diagnosed with diabetes, I decided to run. My first day, I ran about 2.5 houses away from my home before I needed to stop. I then walked and ran for 1 full block and then turned back home. So in total, I made it, with rounding, 2.5 blocks. But I decided on day 2 to try to do better than day 1. That was my goal for the first several months. I tried to do better than the previous run. I also signed myself up for a 5K, which gave me some pressure to keep at it. 11 months after I was diagnosed, I had run a 5K, a half marathon, and a full marathon. You don't have to follow me in running, but whatever you choose with regards to exercise, if your goal is simply to do better today than you did yesterday, that is a pretty good goal. And if you can add some peer pressure to yourself by signing up for a race, it will help keep you motivated. Just FYI, I know some people do not like the attention on themselves when they exercise. You can sign up for a race not in your hometown, and you don't have to tell a soul about the race. My final recommendation is adjust. We humans are creatures of nature in a lot of things we do, especially the food we eat. I feel like there are foods that for whatever reason your body is not going to like. What I mean by that is managing your diabetes with those foods will be challenging. There are times over the years where I've had to adjust to keep my blood sugar in check. Option A on the menu keeps my blood sugar elevated, and I need to exercise to pull back down my blood sugar, and it's difficult. So let's opt for option B on the menu. Understand that not every day is going to be good in managing your diabetes. But the key is we're looking for many more good days than we are bad days. And the A1C test that your doctor orders is the test that counts the most. I hope that helps. If you think I'm missing any recommendations, I would love to hear them. Please put them in the comment section below, and I'll make a second video about it.